between the hedges to Alabama was Ole Miss.
Right.
And it was a rematch game, but I mean, it took Ole Miss until the second quarter to
really find
really
their groove,
have some sort of offense there. I just don't see with this Miami defense, especially the secondary, being able to consistently stop Harrison Wallace, Keywan Lacey, Trinidad Chambliss tonight.
Yeah, and especially the way that they're creative with those guys. Mario Cristobal coaching in his first college football playoff game. And he talked about the game and his approach.
Completely, with all due respect, it's not really a bowl game. It's a playoff game, right? Start the season with 100-plus teams, and now there's 4. And everybody's banged up. Everybody's hurting. Numbers are down. People have exited. So that's the approach, making sure that we understand that you're here for a purpose, and your intent and what you've done throughout the entire season leads you to this. You approach it with gratitude and full throttle.
So it should be a big one between two teams making their debut in this round since this college football playoff has begun. We'll break the game on down a little bit more later on. Also talking a big night of high school and college basketball. We'll have that and more next. Back here on Southeast Sports Plus, inching closer to the college football playoff semifinal. Also, right now, knee-deep into the beginning stages, I should say knee-deep, the beginning stages of the college basketball season in conference play. Excited to have our friend Chesa Boucher on the show today. And Chesa, thank you for grinding it out, playing through injury today. I know a lot of people know where you're coming from with certain ailments in and around, so I appreciate you playing through the pain. But first of all, let's talk some transfer portal, because a lot of eyes right now are on Lane Kiffin. A lot of eyes were on the basketball game a little bit earlier when a high marquee quarterback came in there in Sam Leavitt. But as Lane tries to mold what is going to be the 2026 roster, what do you make so far of the transfer portal, both outgoing and incoming?
I like it. I think we knew that there were going to be, basically have to rebuild your offense, all but one offensive lineman out the door. Quarterback room, you don't have any scholarship quarterbacks on that roster, so you're like, really need to go after that. I wish they would just like land one already so that we can be like, hey guys, we got one, we got a few more we need to go. I think with the wide receivers, it's promising, the talent that they're bringing in. Lane Kiffin has a kind of prototype of what he's looking for. He likes that big body, but also a speed guy, and so they're kind of stacking those wide receivers up. But I think you have to do some damage with the quarterbacks. You got to figure out who is going to be your QB1, and also that offensive line. We're not playing 7-on-7 football. We got to have that O-line.
Yeah.
We didn't have one in 2025.
That's right.
Got to add some big guys because you only have one returning. So they have a lot of work to do. They've added some defensive pieces as well, which is expected. But yeah, to me, I just feel like once you get your quarterback one and figure that out, everybody was talking about how Sam Leavitt was the guy. They even opened up, it's called Supper Club here in Baton Rouge on a Monday, brought him in and kind of wooed him. And everybody's like, okay, this deal is done. Well, apparently, because of the Washington quarterback who Lane Kiffin and Charlie Weiss recruited in high school, they wanted him when they were at Ole Miss, and so they're kind of going after him. And now rumors are flying that Washington wants to sue LSU for tampering and just all the things. So we thought like the craziness with the Lane Kiffin hire might kind of calm down, but he's like, no, we want to keep you on your toes. It's 2026, but it's still the same craziness in the house that is here in Baton Rouge. So it's interesting. I was a little bit surprised. I felt like the Sam Leavitt deal was kind of done, and he was here Monday, Tuesday he was at the game, which Lane Kiffin is not allowed back in the PMAC because LSU has not won a ball game with him in the building.
I was going to talk about that.
Yeah, he needs to stay at home for sure. And I love when coaches come and support, but like, my God, we're not doing well when you're in the building. So just give it some space. But everybody thought Sam Leavitt was a done deal. Apparently, LSU is kind of, I think, second guessing maybe going with Sam Leavitt just because he did have that list fracture, and so he would miss the entire spring and maybe even a little into fall camp. And so do you really want to put $1 million NIL deal into a quarterback that you have some reservations about? So I think it's going to be interesting how everything unfolds. Sam Leavitt is now visiting Tennessee, so what does that look like? I don't know. I know LSU fans are getting antsy and they're like, ugh, but I think with the pieces that they've already brought in, you have to feel good because everybody thought like January 2nd it was going to be fireworks, and it wasn't.
Right.
And you have to think about what Ole Miss was doing. Ole Miss was playing, and so all of their coaches were there. So it's like, hey, it comes with the territory. So I don't know. It should be interesting. I feel like there's going to be some craziness in the works still. Lane Kiffin ain't done. They're not done. And it's just find us a quarterback. Like, get him and
right.
let's move forward.
And I feel like when you look at the portal, I mean, he's known for throwing a boatload of money at wide receivers, and it just seems like right now you've got your running back in Harlem Berry. That seems like he's going to be the guy. There was thoughts about Kejuan Lacey potentially coming down to Baton Rouge. Those are quelled. I don't think you could have put all of your eggs in a basket on Trinidad Chambliss just because of the waiver itself, and then if he does end up not getting the waiver, then you don't really have a quarterback in the future. So you talked about Sam Leavitt. You talked about Damon Williams. If it were up to you, who would you rather have and why? Don't mean to put you on the spot.
No. I hate to say this, but I'm going to say it. I keep it real with y'all. the way I am and the way that I would coach would be a lot like Lane Kiffin. You kind of, you don't know what's going to happen. So I'd rather gamble and have the better quarterback in Sam Levitt in my, his production, he's had CFP experience. And so to me, I'm like, hey, that's a guy that can get it done. He did it at Arizona State in the sense of making it to the college football playoffs. Obviously, we saw him with a really good running back, but still, I felt like he has the moxie, he has the leadership, he has that it factor that you need in Baton Rouge that maybe, I don't want to say it, but again, I'll say it, Garrett Nussmeier kind of lost. Jaden Daniels was that silent leader, but he walked the walk. Joe Burrow, he wasn't scared of anybody. And so I see that in Sam Levitt. So it's like, you need a guy like that in Baton Rouge because Tiger fans are brutal. They're going to love you and hate you all at the same time. With having a head coach like Lane Kiffin, you're going to get a lot of fire as well. And so to me, he has it both on and off the field. I don't know enough about Williams to say who he is. I think of what he has done with signing the contract and then being like, just kidding, I'm going to go back and I'm going to do something different. But I don't blame him. I feel like coaches are able to do that. Why are players not able to do that? So I feel like the heat that he is getting is not warranted, again, because if you're going to play these players to play and sign contracts just like adults, I think they should be treated just like adults. I don't think there should be a double standard. So I don't know enough about Williams off the field to make that call, but what I've seen from Sam Levitt, I've heard Williams is, some of his highlights I've seen, I'm like, oh my, like,
yeah.
Lane Kiffin would love somebody like that. He's very dynamic. So to me, though, Sam Levitt, because of the health issues, it gives me pause. But I also just think he's got the moxie that you need to be in Baton Rouge and to be that QB1 for a program like LSU.
Absolutely. And with Damon Williams, I really don't think that it's really nefarious. I don't think he's bad. I think that what ended up happening is he agreed to a deal probably a little prematurely and maybe thought that I might not get a deal as good as this one, and then he gets whispers of another deal and now he wants to get out, and it looks messier than probably it was intentionally meant to look like, and the lawyers getting involved and all of that. You know how all that stuff is.
Crazy.
I think it'll work itself out. You mentioned the fans, and I have a question for you, and you can speak for yourself, you can speak for the fans at large here on this one. When Kalen DeBoer replaced Nick Saban, there was a weird thought that he was just going to come in and just take over from Jump Street and go right back to the playoff. He didn't the first year, and then the second year got heat after losing to Florida State, took the team to the playoffs this past year, won a game, then lost a game. There are Alabama fans that are out there saying that if Kalen DeBoer has another 4-loss season, think about this, another 4-loss season, he could be possibly done. Such are the expectations for Kalen DeBoer as he's at Alabama. I say that to tee up this question. With Ole Miss making this run,
this is a good one,
as fast as they are, and 60 minutes away from a national championship, do you think that accelerates it for LSU fans saying, oh, well, we just saw what Lane put together, and that team just went on a run all the way to the NCAA championship? Are fans going to go into fall camp, into training camp, into July, August, September, realistically thinking that LSU should be holding up that national championship?
Oh, absolutely. LSU fans are delusional. Three out of their last four coaches have won national championships. So they're like, Lane Kiffin, he did that at Ole Miss. He's going to do that in year one in Baton Rouge. That's not realistic. I understand that with NIL in today's era, it's a lot easier to have success early on. But I also think it depends, again, who's going to be that quarterback one, who is comfortable in this system. We don't even know. We know the new coaching staff, but we don't know how things are going to roll in Baton Rouge. Lane Kiffin built Ole Miss into what it is over that 5-year span that he was there in Oxford. There's a different expectation in Baton Rouge because they have won national championships. They have had Heisman Trophy winners, so they expect to win right away. I think year two, if you're not in the college football playoffs, especially if it does go to 16 and you're not in the playoffs, and they're going to be like, Lane was the wrong guy, get him out now, because that's how it is.
Yeah.
Brian Kelly, he came out of the gate swinging, had one of his best years, year one, set the bar high. It bit him in the butt eventually because it was like, he can't win the big ball games, just like he couldn't do at Notre Dame. So to me, I think it's definitely Tiger fans are going to expect that. They need to kind of pump the brakes a little bit. But I think with what LSU has invested, with the coaching staff, with the players, with Lane Kiffin giving him everything that he has asked for, I think year 2 is absolutely reasonable to say, hey, they're in the college football playoffs. They should at least be in the Final Four as well.
Well, I tell you what, that would be another expensive buyout. And
I know.
I'm sure Governor Landry would have another thing to say about that buyout, just like he did about the Brian Kelly one. One more football question here, and it's about the transfer portal, and again, it's about the fans. Seeing that Ole Miss is being able to retain all of these guys that had been rumored, and I know LSU fans would have loved to see Kewan Lacey in the purple and gold next year alongside Trinidad Chambliss and maybe even Harrison Wallace and some of those guys on defense. Are fans getting a little antsy the fact that these guys are staying in Oxford, or do they have trust in Lane Kiffin to be able to take his time to find the right guys during this portal cycle?
That's a really good question. I will say, I think had Ole Miss lost to Georgia, it would be a different story. You would have some of those big names out of Oxford here in Baton Rouge already, as we've seen with the coaching staff. So to me, I think LSU fans are like, there's pause because they're like, why are all these big fish not flocking to Baton Rouge right now? They should be here because they think Baton Rouge is superior to Oxford. I was in Oxford 5 years. I agree. I think Baton Rouge is superior to Oxford. But when you have the opportunity to chase a national championship, I'm going to go chase that ring all day, every day. That's what everybody envisions. That's what they dream about. That's what they want to do. So I understand it. But I also think that Tiger fans are kind of like, nothing beats the purple and gold. So they're like, what is going on here? I, again, though, have a lot of faith in Lane Kiffin and this coaching staff for what they've built in Oxford. It is not easy to do. We have not seen that type of success in Oxford ever. We've had competitive programs there, but it was always, so close. So close. You were competing, but you couldn't finish out this season, or you couldn't.
The Mets of the SEC.
Exactly. And so it was one of those things. For them to now be in the national championship hunt, everybody's like, whoa. But it's because of what Lane Kiffin built and who he brought there and how he built that program. I think it's interesting what Pete Golding had to say, kind of trashing Lane Kiffin and trying to be like, I don't hear anything outside, the outside noise and recruiting. We're going to recruit on our trajectory. Like, my guy, just say y'all don't have tradition. Like you don't have those trophies to recruit to. You think Kalen DeBoer doesn't say, hey, look at all these national championships we have in Tuscaloosa. He wasn't on that coaching staff, but you know what? Here in Baton Rouge, there were 2 guys that are now on LSU's coaching staff that were there for the national championship. So 2 of those guys did help bring home that national championship 2019. So Pete Golding, what we doing, my guy? If your butt hurt, your butt hurt. Like, I understand.
I think he's just thinking he's 2-0 in college football playoff games. Lane Kiffin's 0-0.
Yeah, sure. He's riding a high horse right now. You mentioned Lane Kiffin going to the basketball games. How has it been? Good luck. The women's basketball team there at LSU under Kim Mulkey started the season as a top 5 team, 14-0 in the non-conference, and an 0-2 start in the SEC. However, to be fair, they've lost those games by a combined 6 points and to 2 really tough opponents in both Kentucky and Vanderbilt. It's early, but is there some measure of concern about where this team stands, or is it, hey, just coming out of the blocks, 2 unfortunate games, and this team can still make a run?
I think there's definitely concern. There's never been a Kim Mulkey-led team that starts 0-2 in conference play. That's at Baylor and at LSU. You just haven't seen that. And for back-to-back losses, that I think it's only happened maybe 4 times in Kim's career here in Baton Rouge. So it's like, hey, what's going on? But I think you also have to look back at this team is young. It's got some veteran players, but again, just 2 starters from last year's Elite 8 squad. There's a lot of growing still to do, and I think when you play a non-conference schedule like Kim has scheduled, and it's really soft, and you're playing all these girls and they have great chemistry, they don't ever face adversity. They're not growing. They're not learning from their mistakes, and I think it's on display when you're facing top 15 teams and you can't finish out a ball game or you get out rebounded. It's showing your weaknesses because now you're playing against that top competition that you haven't played before. I also think that they're missing a vocal leader. I know Flau'jae Johnson has been, I mean, she is the captain of this team, but against Kentucky, she was a no-show. Or against Vanderbilt, she went scoreless. She's only been held scoreless twice in her entire career at LSU. But like, she was just non-existent. I understand having an off game. She only shot the ball 4 times.
Right.
But there's got to be something of saying, hey, maybe the ball's not falling for me. She needs to hold everybody accountable. And for them to have 22 turnovers, a season high, and it wasn't like, oh, Vanderbilt's such a defensive team and they play so aggressive. It was like dribbling off their foot and doing stuff like that I'm like, bruh, we didn't even do that in game 1 or 2. What are we doing? Oh, I was losing it on the couch sitting with my fiance and his daughter, and she was looking at me like, you're crazy. And I was like, what? It was driving me insane. Being a former point guard, I would have been in everybody's faces of being like, what are we doing? This is not us. And it just, I never felt like anybody really stepped up and did that. And I think until we see somebody do that, that it might be a rocky start, because you go to Georgia, you play them tonight, then you play against number 2 Texas at home on Sunday. Like, it's not an easy road in the SEC, and it's only going to get harder. So for me, I'm like, I know that Kim and Bob Starkey, Bob is an assistant that's been with her for a long time, and he was at LSU before she came over. He put T-shirts out in their locker room, and it was Angel Reese saying, it's me boards, meaning nobody's getting that rebound but me. And I know that has to spark a fire in them, because Kim Mulkey and Bob Starkey are the absolute best motivators, and I would be very embarrassed of back-to-back performances like that, especially with all the hype saying we can score 100 whatever points. You can't score if you turn the ball over.
Exactly.
Yep.
Now, I'll say this. If you lose this game to Georgia, you got the one at home against Texas, you might have to pull a page out of the Steelers book and get your local priest to pour some holy water on the court or something, because it seems like Lane Kiffin's done something. I don't know if it's
that bad juju. I don't know what it is.
I mean, LSU can't win a game in basketball. Ole Miss is just winning everything right now. It seems like everything is going against Lane Kiffin ever since he left.
It's like the opposite of the Midas touch. Like, it's just everything that Lane's touching right now has turned sour.
Everything he looks at just turns stone.
Exactly.
That's bad karma. It's like, no, you can't leave like that. You're going to have to pay for it. I'm going to need him to do something. We've got plenty of churches around Baton Rouge. Go and ask for forgiveness, my guy. Rather than hot yoga, go to church.
When you said rather than hot yoga, I thought you were going to say go to somewhere else that's hot. So I was just like...
Don't tell him to go to Cancun. He's not going to Cancun.
Got a chance to hear from Kim Mulkey, and she was doing just what Chessa was doing on the couch with her fiance, saying, hey, let's get tougher, guys.
You better watch the film, show each of them how it's only one possession. It's only one possession, Coach. But, Coach, we all right? It's only one possession. So you show them that. And then you get on the floor and you go to work and you get ready for the next game. These first 5 games are as tough a bunch of games in a row that I think I've ever coached in. And we know what we face. And got to keep working. Got to get better.
Her tone there was almost like Silent Assassin, and it feels like this team is going to rout Georgia, setting up a great game with Texas. I think this team still has a lot to prove, and like you said, I think they have the talent to do it. They just got to be able to close out these close games. Chessa, thank you so much for your time.
I got one more question for you.
Go ahead. Do your thing.
Are you secretly rooting for Ole Miss tonight?
I forgot. Yeah. Hang on a second. I'm dying for this answer.
No, so if all of LSU's staff was going back to coach with Charlie Weiss, I would absolutely be rooting for them, because I'd be like, hey, then it shows LSU can be like, hey, our guys went and did that for y'all. Y'all are welcome. But now that it's only Charlie Weiss, I'm like, and the way that Pete Golding has done the jabs and the way I'm like, boo boo, you've only done this for one game. One game, my guy. you can't act like you're the big dog when you've done it for one game. I'm gonna need you to prove it. And it took a field goal for you to get it done. So to me, I'm like, I think you might need to be a little humbled there to say, that was cute, that was a nice run. But Lane Kiffin is the reason why you have those players, that staff, the reason why you're in the college football playoffs. You can't take all the credit for a house that was built before you were there.
This is true.
So well said.
This is true.
So well said. I know you've been under the weather, but you absolutely killed it here today. Thank you so much, Chessie Boucher. You are incredible.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me. Happy 2026.
Happy 2026. Hopefully it's a good one for all of you there in Baton Rouge.
Yay, SEC.
Yeah, the end of the SEC. And I think she brings up a good point, and I think she speaks for the fans there as well. We talked a little bit about how the LSU fan base, I could see the jabs being something like, hey, okay, don't do that to our new coach. But there's a point of pride saying, hey, Lane built that, and so he can build this similar here, and we can win a championship.
I will say this. I feel like when you look back at the original interview that ESPN's Marty Smith did on the tarmac as Lane Kiffin was getting on the plane, and in his introductory press conference, he took little jabs at Oxford. And I think this is the opportunity that Pete Golding has had, where he's coming in with a completely different energy, something that we didn't see under Lane Kiffin. He had the whole, when he was introduced, saying, I'm not going to do hot yoga or any of that stuff.
Right.
I think this is his opportunity. He knows that he's got basically, this is America's team.
Oh, it is.
Just
No
based
question.
on everything that's happened.
Question.
America
Yes.
is rallying around this team because nobody thought this would have happened.
Right.
And all that stands between them and a trip to Miami is Miami.
Yep. And Carson Beck, a guy that
Carson
they know and a guy that they have beaten before. We'll see how it all shakes out tonight in the college football playoff. Hour number 1 continues next. Back on Southeast Sports Plus, the college football playoff semifinal game, the first one of 2, kicks off tonight in Glendale, Arizona. The Miami Hurricanes are led by quarterback Carson Beck, who once spent his time in the SEC, now at Miami, kind of on a redemption tour. And he has kind of 2 reasons that he has to be excited. Not only can he put his team in the national championship game, but also he can get a win over a defense that has beat him before in Ole Miss.
Yeah, and he's just beaten Ohio State. Now you could say the defense kind of had a little bit of help there, getting that pick 6 that basically iced the game early in the game. But he also did beat Texas A&M. But again, you could say the defense definitely helped. So I don't know. Do you have any concern facing Carson Beck if you're Ole Miss here? Because he is a former SEC quarterback. He's got 27 pass touchdowns here in 2025. But again, double-digit interceptions.
Yeah, double-digit interceptions. It looks like where they're most comfortable with him is basically in the short to intermediary passing game. He's got about almost a 75% completion percentage. But keep in mind, he threw for 103 yards against Texas A&M and 138 yards against Ohio State.
Yeah.
Not blowing you away,
No.
not by any means. And like you said, they could rely on that defense. Now, will Ole Miss put together a game plan that says, Miami, you will not run the football today. We will make Carson Beck have to beat us, and then try to take some chances and see if you can, like you said earlier, those 2 interceptions, pick him off a couple times. And then after you pick him off a couple times, then you put it back in the hands of your offense. I think if I'm Pete Golding and the defensive plan would be to make sure that we stuff the run and you try to make Carson Beck, put a ball in the air and make it errant and take your chances with him throwing the football.
Disguise coverages. I mean, just make it so hard for Carson Beck. Show him why the SEC is still the SEC.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people are saying stuff about how, it's another hypothetical win for the SEC. The SEC isn't that big anymore. This would be a great opportunity to go up against a Miami team that's riding high right now.
Mm-hmm.
They think they shouldn't have been, or people think they shouldn't have been in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Some people thought Ole Miss shouldn't have been in the playoffs, but I mean, should be another great one tonight. I can't wait for it.
Yeah, and I feel like Miami's always had kind of a us against the world.
Yeah.
Going back all the way to the Yankees.
Well, when
the
you have
70s.
Michael Irvin on your side.
Right, exactly. And they put themselves in a lot of those conversations. But now it's even more so because there are people who legitimately thought that Notre Dame should have been in this 12-team playoff, but here Miami is in the top 4. We will finish up hour number 1 coming up next. Let's close up hour number 1 with something that we like to do here, one of our favorite franchises. It is overreaction time, and right now it's actually really good because the sports world in the SEC has kind of given us a silver platter with our overreactions. You can go football, you can go basketball, men's basketball, women's basketball, you can go NFL draft. There's lots of places that you can go right now in this time of year on the calendar.
And here we go. Some of these are crazy, but you got to start 2026 hot. Ole Miss is going to shock the world yet again. They keep sleeping on Pete Golding and the Rebels, but I know there's 4 assistants that aren't going to be at this game for Ole Miss that were previously at the games, but I don't really care because I think the mastermind behind it all right now is Charlie Weiss Jr. and Joe Judge.
Right.
And Joe Judge is going to be there next year. Ole Miss had to find a new offensive coordinator. They got the guy coming in from East Carolina who runs a similar style offense. So
Correct.
don't expect them to drop off anytime soon. But here's my hot one.
All right.
Florida might actually miss the NCAA tournament. And I don't even care if they beat Georgia the other day.
Yeah.
Because there are some – if they make the NCAA tournament, they're on fraud watch. Because that guard play is so unreliable. And I talk about it all the time. Guards win you games in March.
Yeah.
You cannot win games when you have Boogie Fland and Xavier Lee, who you presumably paid both combined like $4 or $5 million.
Right.
To give you 14 points against a ranked opponent and have your front court just carry the boats basically for them. I just don't see it happening. And Darius Acuff Jr. is easily going to make a run at SEC Player of the Year. I mean, that dude's just incredible.
Okay. All right. I kind of have a bonus one tied to the player of the year. How about Buckyball, Texas A&M? Now, people will watch the end of that game and say, okay, it came down to the controversial finish. And Auburn thinks they got the shot off. Do they have the shot off? Do they not have the shot off? That's not the story, friends. The story is Texas A&M was down by 15 points in the second half.
This is true.
And stormed their way back. And this is after Stephen Pearl said it in the press conference beforehand. This is a team that played SMU in the ACC SEC Challenge and essentially did the same thing.
Yeah.
They no deficit is too much for them. It feels like as of right now. I followed Buckyball for a while now. This is the way his teams are. Even if the shot is not falling, they play such good defense to where they can steal you, steal you, and come right back. It's just like what the Warriors used to do with their three-point shot back in the day. They would just be able to, they were never out of a game. And it's not necessarily that with Texas A&M with a three-point shot, although they can hit the three. They're just never ever out of a game. I trust Bucky Ball. It is now here to stay in the SEC way, and it is a problem. I'll say this.
I think that the three-pointer has made 10 points or 20 points the new 10 points.
Oh, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with that for sure. Mid-alert, I actually put this up, I'll be honest. I put that before they lost to Missouri because I thought they would beat Missouri at Rupp Arena. Now they lost to Missouri. They're not on mid-alert. They're on terrible alert.
Trash.
They're on fraud alert, Kentucky
Fraud
Wildcats.
alert.
And then how about maybe the SEC Football Player of the Year might be on the plains. How about Byron Brown? Who knows?
We'll see.
Overreaction, maybe the best new quarterback in the SEC? We'll find out. We have hour number 2 and a packed one coming up next here on Southeast Sports Plus.
In our neck of the woods, sports is tradition. Sports is passion. Sports is family. Sports is fun. Welcome to our house. This is Southeast Sports Plus Live with Simone Eli and Gerhard Mathangani.
Well, the college basketball season is heating up in conference play. Some teams have been surprises in the good direction. Some teams have been surprises kind of in the opposite direction. Then there's teams kind of in the middle of the road. And those are the teams that we will try to figure out here over the next couple of weeks and months. Welcome to Southeast Sports Plus. I'm Gerhard Mathangani, joined by Patrick Walsh here. And we kick off hour number 2. We'll head over to Oklahoma City. We'll talk about some of those teams we're trying to figure out. And the Ole Miss Sooners,
They're on a roller coaster right now.
Ole Miss Sooners seem to be one of those teams. We talked to you a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
This team was undefeated at home, and they were rocking and rolling. They started SEC play, had a nice win. However, go to Starkville and only put up 53 points in a 72-53 loss there. Let's talk about the game first, Holden, before we go big picture. What'd you make of the Sooners and that performance in the second game in the SEC?
Yeah, it just was weird because, you felt pretty good about them coming off of their win against Ole Miss. And one thing that we'd seen them do really well all season long is basically no matter how they played in the first half, they played really well in the second half.
Right.
And that just didn't happen against Mississippi State. They just really fell flat from about, what was it, like the 12-minute mark on, something like that. Whereas, neither team was really playing offense that made you go, wow, this is an enjoyable game to watch. But
to say the least, that's exactly right.
But it was close, and they were still in it, and you kept thinking, oh, well, surely these shots are going to fall, because there were quite a few shots that you're like, okay, these are things that they would normally make. They're just not making it there. But I mean, credit to Mississippi State. Their defense was hounding them. And Porter Moser said, Chris Jans is a former Porter Moser assistant coach, so Porter knows him well. Chris Jans knows Porter well, and Porter gave him credit. He said Chris Jans is one of the best defensive coaches in the game, and he backed that up. Because the OU, just with their worst offensive performance of the season by far. I mean, this is a team that averages 87-ish points per game coming into this.
Right.
And they did not come close to that. It was just a brutal performance. And, it's bad. And then you kind of look at the numbers and you're like, wow, this was even worse than I thought. They had 4 total assists in the game, and it was all Xavier Brown.
Right.
Not a single other player had an assist on the game.
Wow.
And you can't win like that. Move the ball, share the ball, and they just did a poor job. And to be a little bit fair, they did move the ball a little bit, and then guys would just miss the shots. So it's hard to get assists when nobody's making shots. But yeah, that was, and then, Mo McGee fouling out in the second half. He was battling foul trouble a lot of the time. And we've talked about that, how that's a very crucial thing for this OU team is they can't afford to have Mo McGee foul out or be in foul trouble. They have to have him on the floor because he just means so much to the team because outside of him, you're relying on a true freshman in Kai Rogers, who's shown flashes of being a really good player, but he's still a true freshman and he's got a lot to work through. And, SEC play isn't exactly where true freshmen thrive, especially those that are kind of on the margins. And then, their big man depth was so, poor that they had to go and add that Russian guy mid-season, Kirill Ilatansev. So, he's
Brian didn't even try to say his name. I'll just say that.
I'm trying, and I've been hearing it from other people, and I'm trying to let it sink in and stuff.
Right.
Luckily, he's not scoring a ton, so you don't really have to worry about it too much. But yeah, I'm working on it.
You got to give him a nickname.
I'm trying to
Holden.
dabble in some Russian a little bit.
I'll say this: this game, when I took a look at the box score, I was a little bit shocked that these teams both scored north of 50 points just based on the shooting game.
Yeah.
You two might not get this reference, but I know we're going to have a few ACC people on here because we were talking about Miami. This game reminded me so much of, I believe it was 6 years ago, Virginia Tech and NC State, 2 ranked teams, played one of the worst basketball games I had ever laid my eyes on. 47-24 final.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Probably literally the worst game. NC State was ranked 23rd at the time. They scored 10 points in the second half.
Yeah.
Like
I
that
think
football
I do
game.
remember that. Yeah,
It's just
crazy.
Like, oh my goodness.
My favorites was the Virginia Tech game of football where they go to overtime. Was it tied at 0 or something like that? It's the picture of Beamer with his hands up in the
Right,
air.
yeah.
It's like the graphics like going to overtime, tied at 0 or something like something crazy. It's like tied at 3 or tied at 0, and that's basically what the halftime was like. Like the OU Porter Moser would probably just fist in the air like we're tied at halftime.
Yeah.
Like I don't care what the score is, we're at least tied.
So
yeah, that's I just think this is a bad loss for OU.
Yeah.
It's a game that you really can't afford to lose in the grand scheme of things, just because of how the SEC, and maybe Mississippi State's figured some things out, and maybe they'll finish really well, and it won't be that bad of a loss. But at the time, they're 9-5 coming into this game,
Right.
and they've lost to some questionable teams in San Francisco and New Mexico, and some teams that are fine. Kansas State is kind of up and down this year. It's some games that you probably don't want to lose. But yeah, I just can't help but feel like this is a bad loss, and one that's maybe going to come back to haunt them when it comes selection time. Is a loss that you're like, you really needed to win this game, because they may be sitting on the borderline of like, hey, we've got 8 SEC wins, a 9th would probably get you in, and they're like, if only we just didn't blow it against. Well, it's hard to say they blew it against Mississippi State, because they
Just the second
never
half, at least.
like
It's hard to win games when
they
you
just
shoot
didn't
31%
play
from
well.
the field.
Yeah.
But then,
and
where do you go from here, though? Because, I mean,
You
you
just
look
hope
at
that
these next 5 games.
yeah. Well, you got to win at A&M. That's for certain. And I mean, it's not impossible to win these games, but it's something that Porter Moser's teams have struggled to do, is win on the road.
Right.
And they'll play well at home, but these winnable games on the road, you have to go and take them, because every win in the SEC is going to matter when it comes to tournament selection time. And you can't let opportunities like this slip away. And I think that's what's really going to come back to haunt this team later on. And I mean, maybe it won't. I don't know.
Right.
It's early. I mean, we're 2 games into the SEC slate. They got 16 more of these. So it's hard to say that it's going to come down to this, but I feel like this is not a good loss for them. And you're losing on the road to some teams, there's no shame in that, but this, I mean, when you just looked at the game, there's like basically half the arena is empty at Mississippi State. So
Right.
it's not like you're walking into a raucous environment. You're not walking into Rep Arena or something like that.
Right.
Okay, like I get like losing to that. It's like, no, I mean,
It's sleepy start.
you gotta find a way to win this, man.
Yeah.
Like, and they played, their defense was pretty solid for the most part. Like, Mississippi State really wasn't scoring well for a large majority of that game. Josh Hubbard kind of heated up near the end, and that was he really put the dagger in it with a couple big buckets in the second half, late in the second half. But yeah, OU just couldn't buy a bucket.
Right.
It didn't really matter who was shooting it. They couldn't get it to go.
Yeah.
And that's just something they got to figure out, how to get some better looks, maybe move the ball around a little bit more, attack these defenses. And I'll take Porter's word on it that Chris Jans is about as good as it comes for drawing up a defense, and maybe it does get easier from here.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't face this kind of a defense for a while, but it just seems like one that you really needed to win if you have hopes and aspirations of making a serious run come March.
Right. We'll see how much this impacts their team moving forward, positively or negatively, and of course at the end of the season when the results finalize. Let's flip over to football now. Some really intriguing transfer. There's been a lot of transfer portal news, and I think everybody likes to connect the dots about why this guy went here. Sometimes it's an assistant coach, sometimes it's a different player. You hardly get one arch rival to another arch rival, but that's exactly what you got with Parker Livingston going from Texas to OU. Number one, what does it do for OU? And 2, is there any backstory that we should know here about the reasons why he chose the arch rivals?
Well, I do think that OU was big in his recruitment coming out of high school.
Yeah.
And I do think we see that a lot for some of these guys in the portal where, they end up, going to maybe their second or third choice coming out of high school. It's like, oh, well, I was looking at them and now they have this opening, it's pretty clear to see I can make an impact, and I was really considering them, stuff like that. I think Parker has to be looking at the wide receiver room and thinking, hey, I can make a real impact here.
Yep.
Because, OU's passing game hasn't been too great, but, we've seen Mateer have good flashes and be able to throw the ball, spin it a little bit. And you lose a guy like Deion Burks. That's going to be huge. Basically, I think outside of Satania, I think pretty much. And Satania still, we haven't heard if he's going to go to the draft or if he's going to stick
Right,
around for
yeah.
another year. But
Right.
but outside of him, I think they pretty much anybody who caught a pass for OU this past season's gone.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Either in the portal or ran out of eligibility or something like that. So I think Ivan Carrion might be back this year, but he didn't really play much of a factor. But Parker gives them something they didn't really have much this year. A guy
Right.
with some size who can go up and high point a ball. As with Burks and Satania being your two best receivers, those were two guys that thrive in the slot.
Yeah.
And you can't really play them both in the slot. So it's that kind of we would have one of them on the outside, and that just wasn't necessarily the best there. So I like what they've done, especially if they can get Satania to come back, which it seems like he probably will come back at this point. So you still have him as a burner. You have a guy that you can throw it up to in Livingstone, and they've done some nice things at tight end, which we can get into a little bit later.
Well,
We've
yeah,
got
we'll-
an interesting
we'll get into
tight
that.
end story.
that kind of
but
just
yeah,
caught me by surprise.
And they were able to get Trell Harris too, who's a
Yes.
pretty solid wide receiver
Yeah.
from Virginia. So I kind of like the options that they've got now, and maybe add another French guy too that can kind of compete and make some plays, and maybe Carrion does some good things and going into his third year now in the program. So and just the fact that we'll be in year 2 under Ben Arbuckle, I think
Correct.
that'll help. I mean, especially we haven't heard from Mateer yet if he's coming back or
Now,
or
would
not,
you?
but
That's my question. Is since Hawkins is now up in Morgantown with his brother Malik, we don't know anything about John Mateer yet. Or halfway through the transfer portal. Do you think he's just coming back? I mean, it feels like OU can't just gamble on him not coming back.
Yeah, especially now we keep seeing quarterbacks coming off the board. DJ Lagway going to Baylor today, so that's kind of the latest one. And so if it's not Mateer, then it's kind of concerning that you haven't heard OU really in the mix for any of these quarterbacks in the portal, and it really makes you wonder what they would end up doing if Mateer doesn't return.
Right,
so
right.
I think it's, I mean, all of these signs are kind of pointing to the fact that they think Mateer is going to be back. And perhaps he should be, but also, if you listen to some of the experts, they still have him as a top 5 quarterback in the draft. So, is that something you really want to pass up this year when, next year
Next year's
may not be that high because
Right.
of some of the other talent and everything like that. So I'm sure that's something that he's really considering, but I do think another year would probably give him, assuming he doesn't break his hand again or,
Right.
Something crazy like that. But
Get him a nice running
'cause
back too.
it's something to give him some, some momentum, some positive momentum heading into the draft, because this season outside of, a couple games, he just really didn't play that well.
Mhm.
Hard to do that when you have to grip a football with your thumb.
Right.
It's
Yeah. without the opposable thumb.
yeah, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a quarterback, but I imagine it's probably pretty difficult. So
Yeah, and there was a lot of talk in the offseason about being able to get Ben Arbuckle as the offensive coordinator, to tier him along with head coach Brent Venables. Well, now the offense gets even more firepower as Jason Witten comes aboard to coach the tight ends, one of the greatest tight ends in NFL history, who also has SEC ties, played his ball there at Tennessee. How big is this for that tight end room, being able to get a guy who has developed pros both in the transfer portal and on the recruiting trail?
yeah, I think this is huge. And when they first fired Joe John Finley, some names kind of pop around. People throw different names out there, and you would hear Jason Witten, and I was like, I mean, I could kind of see the connection, but why in the world would he come coach tight ends at OU? Like,
Right.
it's kind of crazy, because you would think generally like he could probably pretty much have his pick of any job he wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been coaching his kids down at Liberty Christian, I
That's
think.
right. Yep,
Liberty
yep.
Christian School in Argyle, Texas, in the DFW area.
Got a connection.
And
I've got a
well,
connection.
DeMarco
DeMarco
Murray.
Yeah.
Former teammate. Tony Romo's also hung around the program a little bit in time. So I know I've seen him at a couple games and stuff like that. So it's kind of a interesting little Dallas Cowboys OU football connection they've got going on here. But yeah, it was like, like that's kind of like a pipe dream. Like,
Right.
get Jason Witten to be your tight ends coach. Like, sure, sure, that's awesome. Like if they can get it done, but
Right.
like, I mean, really, is he gonna do it? And
He did
somehow
it.
they pulled it off.
Yeah.
They pulled it off. They managed to get him to come, and I mean that's just huge because tight end's really a position they've kind of struggled at. Their last notable one was Braden Willis, who I think was a 7th round pick by the 49ers, kind of bounced between their practice squad and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But outside of that, they haven't really had a true standout tight end.
Right, and there he is. There's that Jason Witten, and as you mentioned, you made that connection there with DeMarco Murray.
Yeah, I was thinking about it because I didn't know if it was DeMarco Murray that was there at OU or if it was someone else or if DeMarco Murray was somewhere else. But that is so strange to me.
Yeah, it is, and I think that if you are a OU fan, this is obviously a big boost for what they have to bring. Add in Parker Livingston. Obviously, this team last year was so great at defense. Do you feel like this is a situation where now the offense is quote unquote solidified? I know they have to go out and score, and the defense, as long as Brent Venables just brings the same production he brought last year, I know that they will lose some guys. Is it now like, okay, this team is now poised both on and off the field to make a real run at a championship?
Yeah, and the one thing that I thought was interesting too is some of the tight ends that they got in the portal. Before Witten had been announced, or I guess he hasn't really been announced. It's kind of reports right now. But whenever that was coming on, I was like, man, they got 2 tight ends to commit out of the portal, and they don't even have a tight ends coach right now. Like, so I feel like they had to have known.
For sure.
I don't think you just commit without knowing who
Your
the tight
position
ends
coach,
coach is going to be. So, yeah, so I think they got some solid guys that can make an impact. One of them, Rocky Beers, his sister plays basketball at OU.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of a big connection there with him. And I think he had 7 touchdowns this past season at Colorado State, which is important because being able to have a tight end you can go to in the red zone is a big thing.
For sure.
And Jaron Kanik, their leading tight end last year, I don't know that he had a single touchdown catch, which is kind of crazy to think about. But I think that's a position, if you can solidify it with Jason Witten and you've got 2 solid guys coming in already, maybe you bring in a good, maybe you can hit the ground running on the recruiting trail. I mean, Oklahoma has had a couple of good tight end prospects that have left the state in recent years. So maybe, you can convince these guys to stay home now that you have a guy like Jason Witten, and maybe those guys will end up coming back to Oklahoma later on. Who knows? But yeah, I think this can only help. I mean, just the name alone should attract guys to want to come play there.
Right.
And kind of a sneaky thing here that maybe some people don't know about is Jason's son Cooper is actually one of the top linebacker prospects in the country for the class of 2027. I think some outlets have him as like the number 2 outside linebacker in the country.
Goodness, yeah.
So I think he's a 5-star linebacker recruit, and Brent Venables loves him some linebackers. So I feel like that's almost kind of a set in stone thing now. I mean, because his dad was coaching him in high school, and now his dad's coaching at OU. So it's outside the tight end room, but his impact could span across multiple areas of the field and stuff. And maybe there comes a day where Ben Arbuckle gets a head coaching job somewhere, and maybe Jason Witten steps in as the offensive coordinator.
You never know.
You never know. I mean, this could be a move that is much more long term than we think about, and maybe gives Witten some opportunities. Who knows what his end game is, if he wants to be a college head coach or whatnot. This isn't a bad place to start, because Arbuckle was already drawing some interest from some teams,
Right.
during the season. So
And now it's the kind of the other way around. It would be a nice
Yeah.
little flip though, because you had Josh Heupel, who was a star at Oklahoma, laid his roots at Tennessee as a coach. You could have Jason Heupel, who was a player at Tennessee, lay his roots at Oklahoma, and kind of have a nice little switcheroo
Yeah.
there between both those coaches. Holden, really appreciate your time, man. Thank you so
Yes.
much for joining us here on Southeast Sports Plus.
thanks, guys.
Absolutely. Thank you. Holden Kruzmark, lots of fun stuff going on over there. And for the first time in a while, we actually didn't even talk Thunder. There's so much going on with the Sooners, the Thunder, and the Cowboys, the Oklahoma State Cowboys, I should say. Lots going on with those programs. But if you're an Oklahoma fan of football, I think next year, as long as Mateer stays in, next year's setting up really well.
I don't expect John Mateer to go anywhere at this point. I feel
Yeah.
like we would have already heard something about him, maybe potentially talking about the NFL draft. But I mean, you can't really do that to Oklahoma, who now just lost Michael Hawkins Jr., which I said the other day. I think Hawkins entering the transfer portal tells me that John Mateer is coming back.
Right.
And with there still being no news about it this late into the portal cycle, it just seems all but done to me.
Right. Yeah, I think if he's going, whether it's elsewhere or to the portal, that would have been done by now. So maybe there's groundwork already being laid there in Oklahoma. We thank Holden Kruzmark for his time there. More Southeast Sports Plus. Hour number 2 rolls on next. Back here on Southeast Sports Plus, breaking down a great week of those midweek games in the SEC. And on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, we typically do our predictions here on this show. Kentucky was a team that was reeling. They had lost their first game of the season in Tuscaloosa to Alabama. Then they were playing Missouri. We had our picks, and I wasn't necessarily sure. I didn't think a team like Missouri could go to Rupp Arena. I thought it was a nice bounce-back, get-back game. But my man on the other side, he called it. Listen in.
We'll come back to this tomorrow, especially if it's right. But one name to watch here tonight that could be the difference maker for Missouri, Jaden Stone. Remember that name as you're watching tonight. If he has a big game, I think Missouri pulls off the upset.
And mark that. If it comes true, mark that one.
I called Chambliss the other day.
You did.
I've been calling Chambliss the whole year.
And
when will they learn?
Jaden Stone on the night, if you didn't watch the game, 26 minutes, 20 points, 6 for 10, 3 3-pointers, and of course, Missouri gets the huge win in Lexington. And to help break down this basketball game for us, we're so happy to go out to the Show Me State. Kevin Ryans joins us from St. Louis. First of all, I don't know. I was surprised because I thought it was a get-back game for Kentucky. Patrick was not surprised. Were you?
A little surprised because Mizzou has
the only believer here is Patrick Walsh.
Mizzou has played such bad basketball heading into conference play. For them to start off the conference season 2-0, and the wins are against Kentucky, usually a power in the SEC, and Florida, the defending national champion. Wow, what a way to reset your season there after such a porous non-conference schedule. But a little surprised, but give Dennis Gates and his team credit. They were prepared and they played really well, especially down the stretch.
Yeah, and we talked about Jaden Stone, but also a guy that you've been mentioning all year, and Mark Mitchell also stepped up. What can this duo, so to speak, because I know Jaden Stone didn't have the greatest game against Florida. This was probably his breakout game for the Tigers. But what can we expect from this duo moving forward as Mizzou is starting to build this momentum? I believe Kentucky and Florida were the preseason number 1 and number 2 teams.
Well, I think Jaden Stone can provide them the scoring that you lost when Tamar Bates graduated, being able to score at different levels, particularly around the rim. Tamar Bates was really good at was just putting the ball in the basket. So I think you get that back with him. Remember, this is an SEC caliber starter that you were missing for a little bit there as they were dealing with a bunch of injuries in December. So to get him back and him playing well is great. Same thing with Trent Pierce, another guy that came up huge at the end of that Kentucky game yesterday. And then Mark Mitchell is just super steady, a big that one could put the ball in the basket, but just sets the tone offensively. And what Mizzou does really well is they have all these big guys on the roster. They're so tall that they use to their advantage against some of these teams who maybe run out a smaller guard or whatnot. Teams in the SEC have to be able to watch out for just how big Mizzou is, because they can definitely play some good defense. They can score with those big guys and really cause some havoc.
Hey, you mentioned Dennis Gates and what he's been able to put together. I think at the beginning of the season, you didn't know what to make of Coach Gates' squad just because they left a little bit to be desired. They didn't play the toughest non-conference schedule, and then lost to Kansas by a pretty wide margin. But now there's a couple of wins here in the SEC. Do we start to believe that this team is for real? And it kind of, I know, like saying, hey, our record was this in the non-conference. I know we didn't play the best teams, but now they're being tested and passing those tests.
Gerhard, you make a lot of fans over in Columbia because I like your optimism. I think they have a lot of work to do in SEC play. The good news is a couple of their wins look really good. Florida is a defending national champion. Minnesota defeated Iowa, who was 19th ranked in the country. They're 10-5, 3-1 to start the Big Ten. That was a win they had in Missouri back in December. And then you have this win against Kentucky. You have to do well in SEC play. I think if they're around 500 or just at 500 in conference. They may be on the bubble depending on their wins, but it'll be tough to be able to put them in my opinion, because of the losses that they've had. Blown out to Kansas, massacred against Illinois in a rivalry game. The wins in non-conference play. I mean, Howard. I mean, I like the fact that he's going to HBCUs. Don Staley does this on the women's side. You know, brings up those black colleges. It's a very good way to do it, to have an SEC school go on the road and play like that. A black coach as well, good representative. But it's not exactly the toughest schedule that they played. I mean, and then the losses that they had, 1-3 against the power schools across the country. I think they really need a gaudy record here in SEC play. But the good news is that you have the SEC,
right?
And look at the way they started,
right?
Yeah.
And now you look at a Minnesota. Hopefully that continues to look really good as the season progresses. You can start to make a case for Missouri, but I still think they have a lot of work to do.
When you look at these next 5 games, I mean, you go on the road to Ole Miss here this weekend, but then you host an Auburn team that seems to be struggling out of the gates in Stephen Pearl's first year. Then you go to LSU, and, you know, fans around there are going crazy because Lane Kiffin has just cursed both the men's and the women's basketball programs. Can't seem to find a win. And then presumably Georgia will be unranked by then, and then Oklahoma. What is a realistic expectation for a record after these next 5 games?
I think you got to go game by game, Patrick. I don't think you need to set a record in there. I think if they struggle and they go, let's say, 2-3, then you start to be a little bit more pessimistic. But you know, I think they really need to, like, especially if you got Georgia on the schedule. They lost to Florida pretty bad, but again, it's the national champion, a team that was highly regarded, and they got waxed. So that's a game that you may think that could be winnable for them. Or Ole Miss isn't playing all that great. That's a game that you could be
still thinking about
winnable
football.
Yeah, just a little bit. But that's a game that you're looking at as potentially winnable now with these 2 wins over here for Missouri. So I think they truly have to start thinking big, but they can't look too far down the line. One game at a time, and if they do well in this stretch, they're putting themselves in position again, particularly with a good record in their league, to potentially get them back into the NCAA tournament conversation. What a great start, though, for Mizzou.
Absolutely. A final quick thing on basketball, and this might be a one-word answer. They got the first win in program history there at Rupp Arena. I don't know if the kids know about the history, about all of that. Was there anything made from Coach Gates and being the guy that was able to lead the team to that win? Has there been any talk about it, or just because of the nature of college basketball these days, is there not that same amount of appreciation by getting a win in such a historic venue?
The good thing about Dennis Gates is that he really does appreciate history, and when one of his teams is able to make history, like go 2-0 in conference play to start the SEC league, win over at Rupp Arena for the first time. He's quick to acknowledge it, but then brings back everyone to earth, keeps it humble. So I think they recognize what they're able to do. They're happy with what they've been able to do here, and set a couple of school first here. But then it's time to get back to basketball. So one thing about Dennis Gates is he's always looking towards the next game. He's not really worried about what's happened in the past, and I think that's helped to serve Mizzou here at the start of conference play. Remember, everyone was down on them after they lost to Illinois, but then they had a couple of weeks off. They were able to get healthy, and Dennis Gates mentioned how much they've been able to go out and practice, and how incredible that's been for them to have those days to refine their offense and their defense, and get those practice days in, and not have to necessarily go from game to game. It's been so important for them, and you can see the results here in these first couple of conference games.
We talked about them facing Ole Miss here on Saturday, and it's kind of a funny little parallel here as we pivot to football, because Austin Simmons entered the transfer portal with a do not contact tag and instantly was linked to Missouri. I don't know. I don't even know if you can call it tampering anymore because all of these players have agents. So is it
Every
really
team does it.
Is it really tampering if you talk to the agent and not the player nowadays?
Right.
Because it just seems like that's the main thing. But what was your takeaway from Mizzou being able to land Austin Simmons from Ole Miss?
They absolutely needed to bring another quarterback in here. It's not any knock on Matt Zollers. I think Matt Zollers
Yeah.
is still young and growing. Potentially has a chance to win this starting job if he elects to stick around and stay the course. So it's not a knock on him, but they need to have competition for him with Bob Prabula gone now and Sam Horn going to play Major League Baseball. Like they needed to bring in someone, and this is a guy that that had his starting job taken away from him. So he's going to come in really hungry, and what a chance for maybe Austin Simmons to come into a situation, take a job, and help lead another SEC program at a chance to make a playoff or a really successful season. So I like this for Missouri. Obviously, the circumstances around getting him, we all know how ridiculous it is with the transfer portal and all the speculation and the ridiculousness around all that. But for them to be able to get a caliber quarterback like that was the starter for Ole Miss, and bring him into this quarterback room is going to be really big for Missouri moving forward. And let's see how it all shakes out. Zollers has experience too, particularly in big games. And, we'll see how it all shakes out. But I like this for Missouri.
Right, and if anybody knows anything about having to have quarterback depth, it is Coach Drinkwitz because of what happened to Sam Horn and what happened to Bo Prabula in the middle of the season. Do you see this offseason working out like last year's offseason where it was Sam and Bo competing for QB1? Does Austin Simmons come in with a leg up? Does Zollers come in with a leg up because he started those last few games last year? How do you think that Drink handles this offseason as they go into fall camp?
Zollers really struggled at times. It definitely looked like someone who was playing his first reps at college football. So I'm not quite sure how Drinkwitz looks at it, but this is a guy here in Austin Simmons who, definitely looked the part at times when he played. This was early in the season and before he got hurt, but looked the part at times playing quarterback. So I wouldn't necessarily give him a leg up. I think Drinkwitz is always given the benefit of the doubt and the upper hand to someone who's been in his system. That's why Brady Cook always had an upper hand, and Connor Bazelak before that. So I certainly expect the same kind of treatment for Matt Zollers, but Austin Simmons looks the part for me. And interestingly, he's a left-handed quarterback too.
Baseball.
So baseball player. So he's an athlete. So I'm interested in seeing how this all shakes out, but I would imagine that since they went out and took it from another SEC school, and this guy was a starter, that he would get 1,000% a great chance to be your number one quarterback out of spring and into the training camp.
Yeah, and I would fully expect him to probably be the bridge between.
One more note, guys. I don't mean to cut you off, but this is the position that Eli Drinkwitz has not gotten right in his 6 years with Mizzou. As much as I appreciate the efforts of Connor Bazelak and Brady Cook, they weren't the most talented quarterbacks. And then this year, the mess that ended up being at quarterback with Sam Horn getting hurt, and he thought that he might potentially be a starter, and Bo Prabula, he looked really good early on in the season, but really struggled in SEC play, and then he gets hurt, and then he leaves. Matt Zollers wasn't ready to play. It just never got that right. And you wonder, in the years that they were close, 2023, they were just on the outside looking in for the college football playoff. If they had a real talent at quarterback, and no offense to Brady Cook, as hard worker as he is, plays for my New York Jets,
Oh no, not
Brady-
the Jets.
Brady-
You didn't have
Brady
to bring
Cook.
him up.
Brady Cook is wonderful. St. Louis and
Oh,
people
yeah,
love
okay,
him
yeah, I
here.
forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The fact of the matter is that the talent has been lacking at that position. So hopefully this changes the tide on that.
Kevin, well, I mean, it's been craziness in Rupp Arena last night. Don't want to say I called
Oh,
that
my
by any
goodness.
means. Mizzou's getting Austin Simmons, and
I think-
our Syracuse Orange are middle of the pack.
Yeah, you don't know. I was down on red going into the season. Then they had that game against Houston, and they played well
Yeah.
against Kansas and won against Tennessee. You started to believe a little bit, but then the end of non-conference play,
Can't
it
lose
just
to
doesn't look
Hofstra.
like it just doesn't look like a team that's ready. And at some point, you have to move on. And as much as I like Red, he's given a lot to Syracuse, and former player and longtime assistant, and now the head coach. You got a couple of studs here on this team that you want to be able to potentially keep. How can you go into another season if they're continuing to struggle? Jim Boeheim is going to tell you that Red is a good coach, and they shouldn't give up on him. But I have to see vast improvement over the course of this ACC play to be able to change my mind right now.
I'm glad we had this like nice little powwow here. You know, just saying, hey, we got to get on the same page here.
When you have
Like, I
Donnie
like it.
Freeman and Kyan Anthony along with Sadiq
Yep.
White, you got to make the tournament.
They have a talented team, that is
Gotta
for
make the
sure.
tournament.
They have a talented team, and there's some basketball left to be played. I know it doesn't look good right now, but you know what? I'm with you. I'm with you in spirit, boys, and with your Syracuse love. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us here on Southeast Sports Plus.
I appreciate the time. Happy New Year. I know Larry David says it's too late for Happy New Year, but I still don't think so. Happy New Year to you guys, and hope you guys had a great holiday.
I just saw that clip the other day about Larry David. It cracked me up. But no, I'm with you too. I'm gonna break his whole rule on this. Happy New Year to you too. Thanks, brother.
See you guys.
See you. Kevin Ryan is joining us from St. Louis. I don't know, have you heard this from Curb Your Enthusiasm?
No, I haven't.
No, this is before your time.
Yeah,
But
it's before
Larry
my time.
David, he's a hilarious comedian, all-time comedian. He has a rule that 3 days after New Year's, you're
Can't
no
say it
longer
anymore.
say
Can't
you're
say
no
it
longer
anymore.
say Happy
Wow,
New Year's.
okay.
That's his rule.
I guess.
That's his rule.
No, I mean, if you see someone for the first time within the first half of the month, that's what I'll say.
Yeah,
That should be my rule. That's my rule.
Especially if somebody you see regularly, then you hadn't seen each other
Yeah.
for a while, and then you come back. But no, when Kevin said that, it cracked me up because I literally just saw that clip yesterday. Back here on Southeast Sports Plus, coming up next, we break down Alabama's loss to Vanderbilt. Are the Commodores for real? We have the details coming up next.
You kind of watch them. I mean, they haven't played any real good teams. They played some high majors and blown them out. It's going to be a good game. I mean, and I'm sure the place will be rocking. It's the first time since 1974 that I guess it's a top 15 matchup inside a Memorial Gym. So it's a long time. It's the year I was born. So I know that's a long time. So it's been a long time since they have had a team ranked this high, another team ranked coming in, so they're going to be ready to go, I'm sure.
Welcome back to Southeast Sports Plus. Now, Coach Nate Oates sandwiched it with a bunch of compliments.
Yeah.
And to his credit, he gave about 50-something seconds that we did not play of how good Vanderbilt was. However, he did say one thing at the very top of that you might have heard at the very beginning. Like I said, it was sandwiched with compliments. But right after that, right before that, he said they had not played anyone. Yeah. If you just look at Vanderbilt's schedule going into the Alabama game, it wasn't the strongest thing ever. However, Vanderbilt heard that line, and they came in with a little bit of heat and ended up beating Alabama. A really entertaining game as far as just watching the game. The box score really doesn't make sense in a lot of ways. We'll break it down here. But Vanderbilt getting a win, and once again, they come out with a very impressive victory. This team continues to roll.
Yeah, and you talked yesterday on the show when we were talking about this game a little bit that Alabama lives and dies by the three-pointer, and you cannot win a game when you shoot 43s and you only make 9 of them. But that's just how this Alabama team is built. But the thing that sticks out to me the most is Vanderbilt shot 50 free throws.
That's right, yes. 50.
And Tyler Tanner is also the real deal, by the way. If you guys didn't believe about Corey Curtis, it seems like maybe we should just listen to Corey Curtis from now
100%.
because he called Diego Pavia's year in his outbreak, and now Tyler Tanner, who's playing like a potential NBA lottery pick. I mean, this dude is just absolutely unreal.
Right. For Vanderbilt, they stay undefeated. They're now 15-0 so far on the season. And with this game, one of the big things that I think for a lot of people when you go into it, especially with a team that hasn't had as much success as Vanderbilt's had, is there a carryover? Can they carry it over going into the SEC season? So far, they have been able to carry it over. And I think guys like Tyler Tanner, who's right there from that area, might be undersized to some people, but not to the people that for them, they think that he can be everything. Yeah. And you pair up his last 2 games. He had 14 assists in the first SEC game. Then he had 29 points in the second SEC game. This could be a guy that can make some noise for this league because, as you've been saying for a long time, you need great guard play as the season rolls along.
Yeah, and I think it's time that we start respecting this Vanderbilt team because a lot has been made, like Nate Oates made. Again, he showered them with praise before and after. He kind of sandwiched that quote about how they hadn't played anybody yet in between all of this. But now this is the same thing, and I don't want to make this correlation because some people might think I'm jumping the gun here. This is the same thing people said about Indiana this year with football.
Okay.
They didn't play
right.
anybody.
That's right.
Because it was always, well, when they play somebody, when they played Ohio State last year, when they played Notre Dame, that's when they got exposed.
Right.
The first test they had this year was against Oregon up there in Eugene. They won a close game. What did Vanderbilt do? Win a close game against an Alabama team that has Final Four potential.
No question.
But it's just so up and down with this Alabama team. I do want to flip over to that side. I know we're short on time here. I think that they were really missing Aiden Sherrill in this game.
Yeah, me too. And there was multiple injuries. The Player of the Year candidate and LeBaron Philon Jr. out with spasms, whole body spasms. But you mentioned it. Sherrill kind of is one of those go-to guys for Alabama, especially late. They did not have him. But if you are Alabama, I'll ask you this: if you are Alabama, they missed 30-something 3-pointers?
31 3-pointers.
They missed 31 3-pointers and lost by 6. Can you actually say it's actually a pretty good loss considering everything?
I mean, you're playing without Aiden Sherrill. You just talked about you had to deal with no LeBaron Philon, who also has been kind of back spasms aside.
Right.
He's been ice cold over the last 2 games.
Right.
I think he's 2 for his last 11 for 3-pointers. Didn't make one against Kentucky. You allow Vanderbilt to shoot 50 3-pointers or 50 free throws, and you shoot 43s and you only make 9 and you only lose by 6 on the road. I think this is a building block. I don't think this is one of those losses where it's like, oh man, the season's over. We lost to Vanderbilt, blah, blah, blah. No, I think you can build off of this. You got to take everything into consideration, but now it's just about how you respond here going into Saturday.
Absolutely. I know it says back spasms earlier. That's my bad. It was cramps that he had in that game. He only played 19 minutes, did not play the rest there for Alabama in that game. All 5 starters that you see in double figures. It's the only time they will play. Next time they'll play will be in the SEC tournament. So we'll see how it all shakes out. We will return here, Southeast Sports Plus. We will close out hour number 2 here on this Thursday. Stay with us. Busy night on the sports scene in the SEC, both on the court and on the gridiron. We'll start with the court. Women's basketball action tonight, a full slate. LSU visits Georgia. You also have Ole Miss and Oklahoma, a top 20 battle there in Norman. The Kentucky Wildcats in Tuscaloosa to face Alabama, and Texas A&M goes to the Swamp, goes to Gainesville to play the Florida Gators.
And then moving it right along here, the number 3 South Carolina Gamecocks take on Arkansas there, and then Missouri facing number 7 Vanderbilt. Number 20 Tennessee Lady Volunteers taking on the Mississippi State Bulldogs, and then the Auburn Tigers are going to take on the number 2 Texas Longhorns here.
That is a very tough stretch there for a lot of teams in the league looking to make their big run before some of those weekend games. So the weekday games there, it will cross over at the same time. A lot of those games cross over at the same time as the college football playoff semifinal.
The Ole Miss women play at the same time as tonight's game. So I don't know how many people are going to be watching.
I was about to say, if you're an Ole Miss fan, and thankfully it's the Georgia game and it's not the Texas Ole Miss. I was thinking of LSU. LSU will play Texas this weekend.
Yeah.
And I hate that for that game because I would want that game to be a midweek game because you don't want that to cross against the NFL playoffs coming up this weekend. But such is life in January. You just have to squeeze games in when you squeeze them, just because it's such a packed part of the calendar. Any final thoughts there on this game before we make our final predictions? Or is it just prediction time?
It's just prediction time.
I like it.
Who is winning this game? The biggest game in Ole Miss program history.
Easily the biggest game in Ole Miss program history. I have been back and forth on this because it's not the biggest game in Miami program history. That's the team that's won national championships, plural. And I think for Miami, they have played, while Ole Miss has played with a certain chip on their shoulder and they've rallied, they've played with the chip on their shoulder in-house because of kind of what has happened to the program with Lane Kiffin and now the other 3 assistant coaches. And I think Holden Kruismark speaks for a lot of people when he says, can this continue? Even if you're just betting nothing else, you're just betting that your luck, I know it's not luck, I'm using that in air quotes, that their luck has run out. I just don't see it. People throw around the word destiny a lot. This might be a team of destiny, but I think the real team of destiny is on the other side of the bracket with the Indiana Hoosiers. I think there's kind of 2 Cinderellas in this tournament. That said, when it comes to 2 teams that I like a lot, I go to the defenses.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why I like Miami in this game.
You think Miami's going to beat Ole Miss?
I think Miami will hold Ole Miss just enough to come away with the win. I like Miami.
Here's what I'm going to say, and I know that this might turn some Miami fans away, but I don't really care because I'm an ACC guy, and my team ended your season last year. So there's nothing to –
these are facts.
That's the fact. You can argue with me all you want. Miami, the fan base in general, and the team, is probably the closest thing to college football's Dallas Cowboys. You haven't won anything since 2001, but every year, it's our year. We're going to win. It's all about the U. Until it's not. And what does half a U make? An L. An L. And that is what Ole Miss is going to hand Miami here tonight in Glendale, Arizona. You had a good run, Miami. People thought you shouldn't have made the playoffs. People thought you had no chance against Ohio State. I thought Ohio State was this year. I mean, you had that great defense, but they couldn't score any points against any actual opponents. I don't trust when it comes down to who do you trust more, that guy right there, or not that guy, Trinidad Chambliss. Mm-hmm. If it's between Beck and Chambliss, I trust Chambliss more just because we've seen Carson Beck go up against SEC opponents. He did not have a good game against Texas A&M. That was at Kyle Field.
Right.
The wind was there, blah, 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 blah. He threw, I believe it was like 100, what did you say, 130 yards?
138 yards, yeah.
This Ole Miss team is the true team of destiny. My national championship prediction is going to come right. It's going to be Indiana. It's going to be Ole Miss for the national title in Miami. Nope, you're not going to get to play for the national title in your home stadium. Give me the Ole Miss Rebels. Trinidad Chambliss is going to throw for 4 touchdowns.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's the score?
45-40.
So you see a high-scoring game. You see Miami giving up 45.
I just don't think that they've seen an offense this complete.
I'm with you. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. Ohio State fans will say we are. I think they're more talented, but I don't think they're as complete as this offense
Ohio
is.
State had Jeremiah Smith and an unproven Julian Sain who had never started at all in college football.
Right.
Trinidad Chambliss is a Division II national champion. Kewan Lacey is one of the best running backs in the country. Harrison Wallace just had arguably the greatest Sugar Bowl game by a wide receiver. This team is ready. This defense is loaded. They're going to stop the run. I don't see it.
Yeah, there's one thing that makes me nervous about this game is Mario Cristobal, because we have seen Mario Cristobal coach his team out of games before. And I do expect to see something cute. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Something tricky. A 4th and 12 fake punt. I just expect to see something that is a little outside of the box.
A counter with this.
Yeah.
Kirby Smart tried that in the Sugar Bowl.
That's
He actually
right.
tried it 3 times.
Right.
He converted twice, but the other time when he was on his own 25 and he went for it on 4th down, Gunnar Stockton fumbled the ball, and then it led to a 2-play touchdown drive for Ole Miss. I could be wrong. This could be where my heater ends. I don't really care.
You have been on a heater.
Ruben Bain is the best player on their defense. And the best part, again, about Miami's defense is that defensive line. The secondary we've seen, it's been suspect. And I think Ole Miss can create separation in the secondary. And I think Trinidad Chambliss's ability to escape the pocket and basically do whatever he wants out there to find the open man, I just don't think Ruben Bain is going to be as big of a factor in this game as some people might think.
Right. And I think
I could be wrong.
And that O-line will obviously have to account for him, and I won't be a bit surprised if they put multiple guys, keep a back end to help pass protection. You could be right.
All I'm going to say is this is going to be the best game between today and tomorrow.
Of the two.
It's going to be the best game.
Okay, and we will have our picks for tomorrow's game coming up tomorrow. Who will Miami or Ole Miss play? I'm taking Miami. Patrick's taking Ole Miss. He's been on the heater, so listen to him today and tomorrow on Southeast Sports Plus. We'll see you then from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock.